So we're here with Push Button Trading, myself and Tracy Lynn. Hello, Tracy. How are you?
Good, Matt. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Awesome. So we're going to jump in today and we're going to take a look at how to run the portfolio generator for the very, very first time. So people who've downloaded our free trial, they've got it set up, installed, they log in for the first time. Now what? So what we're going to do is I'm going to drive this and we're gonna kind of jump into the specifics of this. The first thing you'll notice is there's really two sections. There's filters and there's portfolio settings. And if I was to turn my drawing tools on, portfolio settings here, filters here. And so I always feel like we have to start this with something specific in mind. So I'm going to pretend that I have a 50K Lucid trading account, which I actually do. And we got to keep in mind what are the goals for the funded accounts, right? So if you're using funded accounts, for those of you watching the recording, the first goal is you got to grow a 50K by $3,000. But you have to do that without losing $2,000, right? So the idea here is this is what we refer to as the drawdown or the max drawdown. In this case, every funded account program has very, very specific rules, and every account size has very, very specific rules. In certain groups like Lucid, they have three different account types. So in case it's confusing enough, there's three different kinds of Lucid 50K accounts. In this case, we're just going to kind of start and kind of go over the basic one, which is you have to grow your account $3,000, grow it positive 3,000 without a negative 2,000. So you basically have to go from like 50K, grow it up to like 53K, but without going down to 48. That's kind of the idea, right? And there's a lot of nuances and stuff. The idea here is what is your maximum drawdown? In this case, it's $2,000. So what you'll notice is we have our max drawdown defaulted here to $2,000, and our account size is 50,000. Again, this is a third-party funded account program from Lucid, and Lucid is one of Tracy. How many dozens of
Oh,
funded
yeah.
account programs like Top Step, right? Lucid Trading, of course, the ETF, which is Elite Trader Funding. There's Blue Ski. There's more than
Trader
I,
funded.
right?
Yeah, there's tons. Yeah.
Right. So the idea here is you figure out what is your max drawdown, and then the monthly targets. All of these are just like defaulted. And the idea here with this tool, this is our push button portfolio builder, and we're gonna every day go through a specific feature here for you guys. But in this case, we're just going to focus on the generator itself, and we're going to kind of talk through some of the specific filters and additional settings. So in this case, I think everything being defaulted looks good. If you have a specific provider, you can go in here to some of these that we've pre-configured and turn them on or enable them. So I'm going to hide the portfolio settings. Everything looks good by default there. So if you're using a smaller account size, you have to know what micro and minis, what those mean. You can use either one or both. Depending on what you're trading, Tracy, which one is the bigger one? Because I know micro and mini is kind of, they both sound in name. I always hated the names of these, but they both sound small, but that's not the case. One is bigger than the other significantly, like a 10 to 1, right?
Yeah, the mini is the 10 to 1, 10 times
The,
bigger than the
the
micro.
mini is the big one. The
Yeah.
micro, it's like small or extra small. They,
But
small
but
and
that
large makes
being
a little more sense, right?
yeah, that being said though, I wouldn't be afraid to trade a mini. So just
Sure.
because the mini is 10x, you actually save more on commissions when you're
Missions.
trading
Yep.
minis than you do by trading micros. So
Right. Right.
equivalent amount. Yep.
Exactly. And so we've talked about like the filters, and every single thing you add kind of restricts and reduces the total output of lists. And the idea of this entire tool really is we don't just have a trading bot. Like people ask, "Oh, I want to watch your trading bot trade." And we're like, we have 549 strategies right here loaded so far. Every month seems like we add some more, but we don't have just one. And the idea here is we have a mix. You can mix and match different types of strategies that work in certain market conditions, some that work in others. And instead of trying to like guess and forecast what's going to happen tomorrow, next month, next week, next year, anything, you just basically find something that works pretty well in all scenarios. So that when you lose $1. When you win $2 or $3. And so even if some start working in certain environments, the others kind of pick up the slack and keep going. So the idea here is we're going to look at the different kinds of strategies, and we'll talk a little bit more about them in future videos. But we have 4 different basic types of strategies. We're going to leave everything default, which is basically here's all the different bots and the strategies underlying each one. Now, this is a standalone product that you guys are able to download. Again, it's the 14-day free trial. But the idea here is that you're able to filter. And if you want specific risks, so if you say, I want to risk somewhere between $100 and $250, it's going to find that and add that as a filter. There's certain time frames that you want to trade on chart wise, or if you want to trade a 5-minute chart or hourly chart, there's all the different types of filters. And so we're going to go ahead and click that real quick as we finish talking. And the idea here again is you're going to tell the system what you want. In this case, we're using pretty much everything by default. The only thing I changed was the minimum maximum risk, $100 to $250 per trade. Now, keep in mind that the $50,000 Lucid account has a goal of $3,000 profit target and a $2,000 maximum loss. So I can lose no more than $2,000. So logically, you'd say, okay, if I risk, let's say $200 on my way to losing 2,000, I kind of have like 10 attempts essentially, right? I'm allowed to lose like 10 times in a row, right? And that's the idea. That's why we're using like fixed risk. And so in this case, it's showing that we got a little check mark. What do you guys tell them in Canada? Tick box, ticks. So it means we're meeting all the criteria, and it shows here's the average monthly, the drawdown. Obviously, something like 1986. If you're looking for $2,000 of drawdown, that's pretty close to skating to the edge, right? And people ask, hey, does this include commissions? It does. We'll talk about that in a sec. But the idea here is that we're able to, it found hundreds of millions of probable possible combinations. It gives us an internal rank, and it just shows you the top 10. Trust me, guys, you don't really want to be scrolling through tens of thousands of variations because your brain would just lock up with too many things to look at, too many things to make decisions on. So in this case, we got portfolio 1 through 10. And in this case, let's click on portfolio 8 just as an example. And what we can do is adjust this. And what we're seeing here is we're showing $159,000 of profit. And here is the portfolio that it built. Here are the symbols that are being traded. MGC is micro gold, and you'll see micro, a mini. So this has a mix of NPL platinum. So it's showing a mix of different instruments or assets being traded, different sizes, so different types, so minis and micros, and then the strategy itself. So the strategy meaning the volume bot, the micro pull, the mega orb, the Keltner trend, different specific underlying strategies. And then each strategy is kind of tied to, we call it an archetype. So BO, breakout, trend following. So different specific types. And so what we can do is we can click on each one of these and look at how each one of these individually and collectively basically add up and show us how well this has performed over time. And what you'll notice is this is not January 22, it's January of 2022, which basically means we're going back about 4.5 years. So we're going through the end of April. So we're going back 4.5 years over a period of many crazy months in the markets, different administrations in the White House, different wars, different kinds of things. And this is what we refer to as kind of a sample size. We're going back a pretty significant amount. And this shows, if you wanted to kind of look at each individual strategy, you can click on each one of these, but you can go to back to portfolio and it'll show like the grand collective, the total, how much it's done over time, how much it's like cumulatively worked together to build. And it shows a max drawdown here of 1,779, a profit factor. Some of these have 60% win rate, some of them have lower. And what's interesting, Tracy, is that just because you have a high win rate doesn't automatically mean you're going to make more money, correct?
That is correct.
And what's interesting is most people are like, what's the win rate? What's the win rate? Well, when you have 549 strategies, And then you can mix and match each one of these. You literally end up with hundreds of millions of possible combinations. So we haven't run every win rate iteration of every possible combination, but we could just say the results vary. That's a short, easy answer, right? The
Okay.
results vary. And so, again, the idea here is like, how do you get started? Again, just kind of use some of the defaults. And if you like something, you can click on each one of these on the left and it'll shift like what you're looking at here on the right. You'll see GC is gold, MGC. So anytime you see the M, typically mean MES means micro. So MGC, MES micro, M2K, and then like PL's platinum, GC is gold, MGC is micro gold. So again, the idea is you can mix and match, and there's hundreds of millions of possible combinations. We took the scoring system, basically just looked at the top 10 and shows us the top 10 results to kind of look at and make some decisions from. And if we say, you know what, I really don't like this one right here, and you can literally just like click on it and delete. You're like, you know what? I don't like platinum or EMD. I don't know what that is. Let's right. So you can literally add in, you like on the fly, kind of set this up and look at each one individually here. Look at what the profit was, a drawdown, the average monthly, the profit factor, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a few days. How many total trades were done, Sharpe factor, Sharpe ratio, and your recovery factor. Again, I can click on this right here, and it's showing me that over this portfolio, this exact example. And keep in mind, portfolio 8 is basically, this isn't anything specific, but it just basically means number 8 in my list here. You might have a different portfolio 8 that has totally different results, right, Tracy? Just to clarify.
Yes.
So this is showing 2,768 total trades. And ladies and gentlemen, that is a pretty good sample size, right? This is not, we're not looking at what worked last week and let's do that this week because that's hit or miss. But this is going back again 27, almost 2,800 trades and said, what has worked well over 4.5 years, win or lose? And like, what does that look like? And this is showing average monthly of about 1,606. Now, I can tell you after running some of this stuff for months and months and months in our new systems that we just released, I can tell you that sometimes you're going to have more, sometimes you're going to have less. As you guys know, you probably know what average means. It doesn't mean it's going to be that exactly to the penny. But in this case, because I removed, you'll see because I removed two of my strategies that meets all criteria that was literally right here a second ago is now gone. So you're like, Matt, are you trading less things and you're taking on more risk? And the answer is yes. And that's exactly what this whole tool is supposed to help you kind of look at and size. Because I can just randomly make a decision, say, I don't want to trade platinum, take it off my list. And now you'll see I'm way over, not over, but I'm over, not way over, but I'm over my maximum drawdown. So that's kind of what I have. Tracy, anything worth adding? Any thoughts?
No, I think you pretty much covered it. I would like to just say that you mentioned in there that this is showing that the portfolio has worked well, and I just want to. Some people's definition of well is probably a little different than others, and I just want to say that it's worked consistently. That's what I wanted to point out. That it's worked consistently over the last 4.5 years. That's what we've been looking for, not necessarily well, because like I said, most people will determine well as a high win rate, which you mentioned earlier, and that is not well. It's the consistency that we're looking for.
Right. Exactly. Yep. And it's consistency over time. Now, what we have had quite a few people do is say, hey, like if I'm in the free trial, how much money can I make during the free trial? And the answer is what? We actually don't want to let you use this is the planning tools, not the actual, like the actual live trading automation. We do have a 30-day program where you're able to do that for a small one-time setup fee. You're able to use the actual live trading technology. But this is where we're going to spend for the first probably week is we're going to spend time on the actual planning tools. And that's kind of what we have wrapped up for today. Tomorrow,
Yeah.
we'll look at the manual builder and a little bit more of the specific things for a little bit more advanced. If you have
But
very
before
specific things in mind, we'll look at that as well. But again, ladies and gentlemen, that's kind of what we have for you. It's pretty simple to use.
Matt,
And yep, good.
Matt, one more thing before you skip out here.
Sure.
I would like to point out, because if you go back to portfolio 8, you made some modifications to that portfolio. So you removed PL and you removed EMD because you didn't know what they were. And I want you to note that when you did that, it actually changed the
Like all the,
actual,
yeah,
it changed the portfolio performance. So now your
right,
drawdown no longer meets the criteria that you were actually asking for. And that's the power of a portfolio. So I wanted to point that out because
yep,
now your drawdown is much bigger than it was, because there's always within a portfolio, you have the individual bot and it's operating on its own. It may not do much, but it can definitely help offset
right,
when other strategies are kind of in a downside,
right,
right?
right.
So
And
I
normally
just wanted to
on,
point that out. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for pointing that out. And normally, like if you're running an individual bot, you might have like this kind of a performance, right? And if you take a handful of those types of performance and kind of combine them together, you get a much smoother kind of equity curve that shows how well this has performed over time. And ladies and gentlemen, if you spent, something like, um, $100, $130 for this account, and you made $85,000 off of $130 account. That's not bad, right? As far as a percentage of return. So again, this is designed for the retail trader. This is very much kind of getting started. If you've never done bot trading before, or if you're a struggling trader and you're looking for more consistency, we got some very, very powerful tools that can help you uh, build a portfolio and get accounts funded. So yeah, awesome. All righty, thanks guys.